everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about this article by the express-and-star.com newspaper, and it's called "People with Learning Disabilities Are Terrified by the Inaccessible COVID-19 Guidance." This was published 12 hours ago, and it says, "Some people with learning disabilities and autism have been left frightened of breaking the law due to a lack of accessible guidelines." So I'm going to scroll down to what it says. And it says, people in England with learning disabilities have called on the government to make its coronavirus guidelines easier to understand, with some absolutely terrified they may find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Campaigners say that whilst the accessible information has been provided on certain topics during lockdown, it has been arriving up to 2 weeks later than the regular releases, leaving some people feeling like a second-class citizen. Accessible information is simple information that someone can understand. It may take the form of an easy-read document or a sign language interpreter, among many other things. It is particularly relevant to people with autism or a learning disability who can require support to understand complex information, such as the new coronavirus guidelines. And then they have a easy read picture, which I will link the article in my video description down below so you can read it more for yourself. And it says, "This is an example of accessible guidance on coronavirus restrictions." Dr. Karen Parry is a chief executive of Inclusion North, which works towards inclusion for people with a learning disability or autism and their families. The group chose to produce their own accessible documents due to the delay in the distribution from government. That just says that people who need an accessible version are like second-class citizens, Ms. Parry told the PA news agency. "Sometimes it's 2 weeks later than an accessible version will come out, which we think is way too late, so we've just gone and done our own. It's filling a gap which we should not have to do. We have people ringing us up absolutely terrified saying, 'Will the police arrest me if I go out? I don't know what I'm allowed to do.'" Samantha Clark is a chief executive of Learning Disability England, a group representing the needs of the community. "There isn't a coherent strategy," she told PA. "There is no way of being confident what you will or will not get. This is part of the problem." And then they have some pictures of people with learning disabilities and autism on here. And it says, Sierra Lawrence, 40, has a mild learning disability, while VJ, 32, has dyspraxia. Both work for MenCap and have found the daily briefings difficult to understand. "I had to spend time explaining it to some of my friends who have a learning disability, and I shouldn't have to do that," said Mrs. Lawrence. "It should have been clear from the get-go. The other day I was watching the daily briefing. There were 4 big words that were used. I was left tweeting my friends going, 'Can someone just tell me what this means?'" VJ, meanwhile, said he struggled with the visual methods the government had used to communicate the data. They showed graphs of pictures, for example, which I found really confusing and hard to understand. "I think people with learning disabilities have been forgotten during this unusual situation." Becky Parker, who's 32 from Durham, has autism. She recorded a video message to Prime Minister Boris Johnson explaining the challenges she faces when trying to follow these new guidelines. "I take things literally, so when they send out images of beds and fridges to explain the distance between people, that was confusing. I thought, so I need to take my bed. Which way would you measure it? The width, the length. My autism means that I follow rules. I need rules. They guide me. Not knowing the most important rules there can be ever is frustrating." Learning Disability England is aiming to tackle this problem by facilitating a campaign encouraging user-led activists, organisations to pressure the government into producing different formats of accessible and timely information. With lockdown restrictions being lifted week by week, clear and prompt guidance for the learning disability community is crucial now more than ever. The campaign becomes even more important as we go into a more flexible and nuanced situation. When it was just stay at home, that was tough, but it's somehow more easier to manage and implement now. The Cabinet Office told the PA that anyone can request an accessible format for the daily briefing slides and materials, and said it has established British Sign Language interpretation with the help of the BBC. A government spokesman has said it is vital that public health information reaches everyone across the country, which is why we have reissued guidance to every government department, reminding them that all their communications must be fully accessible to ensure that they reach everyone in an appropriate, inclusive format. The Cabinet Office regularly engages with a wide range of disabled people organisations and charities in order to better understand the concerns of disabled people and to ensure that the government communications are appropriately tailored to be inclusive as possible, and we will continue to do so. I just want to say a few things on this article in general. As an autistic person myself, I think basically the government has failed a lot of people with learning disabilities and autism. There is no way they have provided enough accessible information, and for two, to say that they are accessible when they're not is just absolute destruction. And they need to make the words more easy to understand. As someone with autism myself, I can understand some of the wording that they use, but it is very technical. It's very confusing, especially when they go from one week to the next week to the next week announcing different things. They don't give us enough time to process what's being said. They don't give us time to understand what they mean by when they update us with things. I think the problem is there needs to be someone who understands both learning disability and autism in the coronavirus updates, who is trained, because otherwise a lot of people like us are being forgotten and left out of the discussion. I think the problem is as well the government is under such hard and fast targets right now and under pressure. They're trying to get as much accessible and quick information out there to the media, to the public, to keep everyone updated day by day by day or week by week. And when they announce the changes, people are like, whoa, okay, another new change. So it's hard to adapt to it, and I understand that. But again, the government needs to put people with disabilities first, not just mental disabilities, but intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, neurodiverse disabilities. And the problem is they don't tend to include disabled people in things like this, which is a shame, because we then don't understand what's going on, and then we end up questioning lots of people, getting anxious, having mood swings, feeling nervous, feeling like we're going to get in trouble as soon as we go out our front door because we need to buy things like the essential food and groceries. And often we panic if we're allowed to be outside or if we should send someone else to go in place of us. I think this is a very confusing topic for everyone. I think for people with learning disabilities, if the government was just to include us and ask our opinions and make an accessible format for each person that requires an accessible format, we'd be able to understand. We want to be involved. We want to understand what's happening within the coronavirus updates. It's just that it's not very accessible for people with disabilities or mental health in general. So I hope you've kind of understood our viewpoint on this. I hope that the UK government listens and takes action and actually makes some accessible information packs so that we can be better involved in what's going on politically, not just locally but in our own local hometowns and things, so we can actually make changes and get more disabled people involved, get our thoughts, get our feelings, get us involved on the daily briefings from the public, get our voices heard, because we're not heard. We're the forgotten selection, unfortunately, and that does irritate me. And I think the government needs to listen more to people with disabilities, because we are the ones who do panic. We are more at risk of getting anxiety, depression. Our mental health is at risk of tumbling because you guys don't listen. We need to be more involved. There needs to be more collaboration. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. Please give this a like, comment, share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.